Hello, everyone. Welcome into Southeastern 14. I am Blayne Gilmer. Thank you once again for tuning in to an episode of Jake's Takes on Southeastern 14. We'll get to Jake Crain, our guest and our co-host here on the show in just a minute. But, guys, I did want to mention to you, hey, this channel is growing fast, and we greatly appreciate all your support. Up over 12,000 subs now. Hit that the other day. And if you think your audience, your clientele, or your business would like this SEC-crazed audience, then you need to advertise here with us. Hit up caroline.smith at Southeastern 14 if you'd like to do that. And then also 15% off on CHOMPS, guys, in the description. You can get whether it's beef, venison, turkey. They got all kinds of different flavors. The beef jalapeno is my favorite one. So check that out in the description if you want 15% off. But one person you don't get any discounts from, you get the full thing the whole time, is Jake Crain. And I'm excited to have Jake here with us once again. How's it going, my man?
Man, going good. Yeah, I can't offer any discounts, not in this economy. If I sound a little funny, change to the weather, sinus is doing backflips, but if that's the worst thing that happens to me, I'm going to be all right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking about doing backflips, Jake, we're going to get right into it. I've seen one man, Joe Milton, do some backflips. He's an athletic freak. I mean, he can do the backhand spring and all that. He can sling it like, over them mountains over there like Uncle Rico. I mean, he's strong as he can be. But this Tennessee offense, and I'm going to go ahead and get the game graphic up here. This Tennessee offense this year, I compared it to last year, okay? To this point, they have 10 explosive plays through the air. Just 10, Jake. That's it. And they had 55 last year. They're on pace to have 53% less explosive passes this year. Is this just a Joe Milton thing? Is this a receiver thing? Is this a lack of not having the play caller from last year that's at USF now? I mean, what do you think is the cause of that with Tennessee's offense?
Well, it's typically a combination of things. I think when you lose the amount of talent that they had at the wide receiver position, number one, then you lose Brew McCoy, a guy that we know is really talented, as they did earlier in the season. Plus, look, a lot of people think I hate Joe Milton because during the offseason, I kept saying, a lot of these people are like, he's going to win SEC Player of the Year. He hit a golf cart at the Manning Academy from 90 yards away. I'm not worried about Joe Milton hitting a golf cart at the Manning Passing Academy. I'm wondering if he can make the routine throws routine. And Joe Milton's been about what we thought Joe Milton was going to be. Hasn't been bad, hasn't been elite throwing the ball. It's a different identity because the personnel lends it to be a different identity. And we'll see how it goes down through the rest of the year. But we see this happen, when you have a lot of turnover. I mean, heck, look at what's going on at UCLA right now. Who'd have thought a Chip Kelly team would be beating teams with defense and trying to protect the quarterback? That typically doesn't happen. But sometimes you don't always have the personnel in the perfect spot to be able to run exactly what you want. So this Tennessee team, and Josh Heupel wants to be a run-first offense. Don't get anything twisted. But it is a run-heavy team that relies on the run. You look at the math, you do the numbers, you go fast. They're still running their now screens. They're spitting the ball out. But the amount of downfield passing success that they've had this year and the amount of intermediate to short game passing success that turned into big plays just hasn't happened. And that's because Joe Milton has missed some guys when they've had opportunities. And they don't have the same cats out on the outside running around as they did last year. So if you can still find a way to win, it doesn't matter. I always say the coaches that survive the longest and thrive the longest are the ones that are malleable when they get to the top, and they can win in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting. Got some statistics together earlier today. I wanted to throw these up there. You can look at the SEC. It's just amazing. The team in red is the one with the lowest in that category, and it's amazing to me that Tennessee, even though they do have one fewer game than most of these guys because they had a bye week this last week, man, only 10 explosive passes, and the fourth down success rate is about middle of the pack there at 44%. So, but hey, look, like you mentioned, they do want to be an explosive run team. So 30 explosive runs, and we count an explosive run of 12 yards or more. So exactly what you said there, Jake. I think they do want to be that run first team. My question is, with this game, and I'll throw the graphic back up again, Texas A&M is a 3-point underdog going to Rocky Top. The over-under has gone down. It did get up to 57.5. Now it's down to 56.5, 3:30 Eastern on CBS. My question is, with this Texas A&M front that held Alabama to 23 yards rushing and really contained Jalen Milroe's legs, had 6 sacks on him, do you think that Tennessee's going to be able to get the run going in this game? They weren't able to run on Florida a few weeks ago in order to help Joe Milton out, create some of those explosive plays down the field.
Well, obviously Tennessee's shocking in that graphic you just showed. If you're just listening on audio, I tell you what else is shocking. LSU is leading every category
Every category.
in that graphic. So if you're on audio, literally LSU was all green. Every statistical category. They're a nightmare to defend right now. But listen, I think A&M may have the best front seven against the run in the country, if we're going to be honest. I mean, Alabama's right there too. But the question becomes, and we've seen we've seen A&M enough, right? We saw them against Miami get absolutely diced up through the air on a different type of quarterback. We know Tyler Van Dyke and Jalen Milroe are very different. But stopping the run is not Texas A&M's problem. The problem is, regardless of how well they stop the run, regardless if they play press, if they play man, if they play zone, they're getting absolutely shredded. I've never seen the first read open as much as I did last week for Alabama in the A&M game. I mean, Burton, who was the first option in most of that game when it came down to the combinations of where to look, wasn't just open, he was wide open, including on third downs. So the question then becomes, yeah, let's go ahead and say A&M's going to stop the run. That's probably a smart guess. Now, how well do they stop it? Do they totally shut it down? Do they shut it down enough where balance isn't a thing? Probably. But I think if there's one offense or one style that can kind of pierce it a little bit, it's going really fast like this, right? It's kind of catching them in base, trying to get them winded a little bit. But can Joe Milton, and I'll say it again, Tennessee's offensive success in this game, especially in the red zone, will come down to whether Joe Milton can make the routine throws routine. And if he can, even with the lack of talent compared to last year that Tennessee has outside, they still got Squirrel White. They still got some guys that can do it. They will be open and be able to make plays. But Joe Milton, all he's got to do is catch the ground ball clean and throw him out at first. That's it. Just smooth shortstop. And he didn't have to. They don't have to hit the chunk plays down the field that much. You want to throw something to loosen him up, maybe help out in the run game. But if he makes the routine throws routine, I like their chances in this game.
So it's really weakness on weakness. It's Texas A&M secondary and their pass coverage versus the weakness for Tennessee, as we've seen this year, has been their vertical passing game. They do get Donta Thornton Jr., who's a speed demon, back off his hammy injury this week. Which weakness are you more confident in going into this game?
Well, look, it seems to be the theme of the weekend. I mean, you look at this matchup, weakness-wise, look at Auburn LSU. I can go down the list. But I will always lean toward the home team. You look at the numbers, and listen, I'm not a trends guy. What happened 3 years ago doesn't matter. But Jimbo Fisher is 3-13 in true road games in his career at A&M. I mean, it's not a good number, and it's starting to become a pattern, it looks like. But I think A&M with Max Johnson, he'll be able to keep and extend some drives with his legs. I think it's going to be a tight game. But if I'm going to pick one here, which I'm not betting this game at all, I'm not touching this game. I'm not touching the side. I'm not touching the total. But if I did, I'd buy it down to Tennessee -2.5, and I'd take that. I wouldn't mess with the over or under because even as fast as Tennessee goes, this one could get bogged down pretty quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's going to be a great game to watch. I'm excited to see it. Excited to see who overcomes some of the obstacles that they have. But, another aspect of it, Tennessee coming off a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for A&M, and A&M coming off that physical matchup. So great game there. Jake, one that we talked a little bit last week, but now I really want to hammer home here. Florida at South Carolina. And my question for you here, I want to get your take on this statement. Saturday's game in Columbia versus Florida, who the Gamecocks coming off a bye week, and Florida missing its starting center. It's the biggest game in the Shane Beamer era at South Carolina. True or false?
False. Listen, I know fan short for fanatical, and I know it hasn't gone exactly this year like South. And Shane was right in his press conference. Okay, they have overachieved early. You're like, man, we won 7. Oh, man, we won 8. Well, why are we not winning 9 or 10? Why are we not winning 11 in year 3? Well, if you haven't noticed, South Carolina's not very good up front on either side of the ball. And that's the saddest part for Spencer Rattler, because if they were and they had some semblance of a run game, and if they could be heavy in the box and limit other teams, South Carolina could be really dangerous this year. Really dangerous. I mean, we saw what they did with what they had in the first half against Georgia, but they don't. That doesn't mean that Shane Beamer's a bad coach. You would like to have the offensive line and defensive line figured out by year 3. But if you can't see the trajectory of this South Carolina team when you look at recruiting, when you look at what they're bringing in on the edge, I think the Lenore Sellers kid has a chance to be special as well at quarterback. We'll see down the road. But Shane Beamer has this program going in the right direction. And I will warn South Carolina fans about this. Okay? Do not, with Shane Beamer, make it to a point where it's toxic, because I do think, And we can talk about 6-year plan or the 5-year plan, like off Big Daddy with the guy working at Hooters, whatever. They're going to pop that big year. If it's not next year, it'll be the year after that one. So you don't want to get in this cycle of, hey, overachieving for 2 years, you have a bad year, oh, we're going to fire you, because that's how you get in that washing machine of having to replace the coach every 3 to 4 years and go through what Tennessee had to go through. So I understand being critical. South Carolina should be good up front, but you got to be able to see the beach through the forest on this one, man. And when it comes down to Florida, same thing with Billy Napier. I mean, you got to be patient. This year's schedule and next year's schedule is like hitting the knees with an aluminum bat when you walk in the house. It's just, it's tough. But patience isn't just for doctors and therapists. I know that's hard for fans to hear. All right. But Shane Beamer, the trajectory, you got to like it. I'm going to sniffle now.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned the struggles along the offensive front and the defensive front. So South Carolina against North Carolina allowed 168 yards rushing, against Georgia 190 yards rushing, and against Tennessee 238 yards rushing. We know that Florida wants to run the football with Napier. They want to get you kind of going east and west, stretch those gaps, make you lose gap integrity, and then gas you with Etienne and Montrell Johnson. But my question to you, and you see it in the graphic, can the Gators run on the road? 31 rushing yards against Utah earlier this year, and then they go to Kentucky and have 69 total yards rushing. They ran through Tennessee like a car wash on a hot summer day down there in the swamp, but they can't get it done on the road. Do you think Billy Napier 1-7 on the road in his career at Florida, away from the swamp? Do you think they'll be able to run the ball against South Carolina and Columbia?
Well, look, I'm a firm believer in when you show me who you are enough times, I got to believe you. And your center's out, who I believe was out against Utah. Now, they ran a little bit too much east and west against Utah. You saw them get more north and south against Tennessee, but they can't figure it out on the road. And Kentucky's a lot better defense than South Carolina. So if there's any defense that you should be able to run on the road, it should be South Carolina. But I've coached at Williams-Brice. I understand what that place is like, and it's amazing how it can make players a little bit better than what they typically are when you go play at that place. So it's the matchup is, it should be what Florida does best against what South Carolina does worst. But when you look at those road splits, how can you sit here and say Florida does that the best when they're on the road? They just haven't performed yet. So I think South Carolina punches above their weight in this game. I think they shut down the run enough. Not that they're not going to get popped a couple times. Florida will have a little bit of success, but I don't think it'll be to the point where Graham Mertz is able to sit back there and just find guys and bide time and find guys off play action and things like that. I like South Carolina in this game. It's actually one of my locks at the week at -2.5.
Jake going with Cocktober over there. He thinks it's time. It's time for
you love to see it. Nothing like a good Cocktober.
Absolutely. All right. Now here we go with a game that is, of interest to you. Make no bones about it. An Auburn guy, but you keep it fair and balanced while you're talking about the Auburn Tigers, and that's what I love about it. My question to you is: should Robbie Ashford play more for Auburn against LSU than he did against Georgia? I was kind of shocked that he didn't play more against Georgia with some of those runs that he had, and you've got LSU who can't figure it out on defense right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, Peyton Thorne is on pace to throw for less yards than Robbie Ashford did last year. I'll say this. I think, again, a lot of it is circumstantial with where Auburn's at from the quarterback position. I think Peyton Thorne did a good job against Georgia, 2 weeks ago, putting balls in spots to give guys chances. The problem, again, it's a combination of things. Peyton Thorne hasn't been great throwing the ball. And also, Auburn's wide receiver room, to be honest with you, is deficient, especially on the outside. They've got some guys on the interior at the slot. They got some guys on the interior like Rivaldo Fairweather at tight end that they can line up outside and can do some damage. But until Shane Hooks and Camden Brown and some of these other guys really come on, you're just going to be a one-trick pony in the passing game. And lately, it hadn't been that great of a trick. But here's where I think your question really has some merit, right? I watched Peyton Thorne go on the road at Cal, look really bad, look forced, did not look clean. I don't think he's thrown a ball away all year, to be honest with you. Then he went to Kyle Field and looked like he was in the middle of The Conjuring, or like Chucky was chasing him around somebody's bedroom. I mean, it was incredible. It led to us questioning his toughness after the game. So if you're going to be shook at Cal and you're going to be shook at Kyle Field, you're going down to Mordor in Death Valley. Yeah. I've been saying all week, like there's like orcs being born in the mud as you're walking in the stadium. You're getting flicked off by kids 3 hours earlier who were playing with Legos, legitimately for fun. They're that young. So that place is going to be rocking. The Auburn LSU series is really weird, but if Peyton Thorne early looks like he's shell-shocked and his eyes are as big as saucers, you got to put Robbie in there because you're going to have no chance. Even against this LSU defense, which talk about weakness versus weakness, Auburn's passing game versus LSU's passing defense, I mean, it's basically a cripple fight, man.
Yeah, and when too, LSU hasn't been able to stop the run very well either. I mean,
No.
I that's why I'm
and Auburn can run it. Auburn can legitimately run the ball.
Yeah, well, not just with running backs too. That quarterback run element, and then the other part of my question was, okay, 2 weeks for Hugh Freeze to prepare for what they've seen out of this LSU defense that we know has problems. Do you think he's going to be able to get the RPO element of this offense going with that bye week and in the preparation, 2 weeks to prepare? I think he's taken over more of this offense from Philip Montgomery based on what he's saying in press conferences and things. Yeah. He's much more involved. Do you think the RPO element comes along a little bit, and are they able to keep this one within the spread of LSU this week?
I think they realized LSU was pressing on defense. LSU's, went to the 4 down. They tried to simplify things in the back end. I think you're going to get a ton of motions. I think you're going to get a ton of different formations. You're going to get some trade by the tight ends. Auburn's going to throw all the eye candy at LSU and run their stuff. But I think you're going to see a decent amount of the RPOs and things of that nature to try and get their eyes going left and right. And when you do that with LSU, you negate their athletic ability. And Auburn's going to have that because I think Auburn's going to be in a lot of 3rd and 3s. I think there's going to be a lot of 3rd and 3s and a lot of 3rd and 4s. LSU's probably going to load the box depending on the personnel that they get. We know Peyton Thorne can run well enough to be effective, but I think you're going to get jet sweep motions. I think you're going to get orbit motions. I think you're going to get wonky formations that motion into other wonky formations. You've had time to really get not into the bag of tricks, but get into the bag of a little bit of that eye candy. And when you do that, you get defenses a little bit guessing. They start playing on their heels. That's what I'm interested to see because Hugh Freeze, one of the best things he does is from a motion standpoint.
And they're going to need every bit of offensive production, of ball control, of points scored that they can get, Jake, because there is not, you mentioned, and I'll put that graphic up here again, just so people can see that are watching on the podcast version. Look here at LSU's points predicted points added per play. Every play that they run on an average basis is getting them almost a half a point based off their production of this.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, they have 44 explosive runs of 12 yards or more in the year, 39 explosive passes, and their 3rd and 4th down success rate is almost 60%, Jake. I mean, they're executing on offense at an unbelievable clip. Is Jaden Daniels, I mean, to me, I don't know why he's not getting talked about in the Heisman conversation.
Well, it's because they have 2 losses, and I get that, but at the end of the day, if he continues to do this, you got to start talking about it because LSU is going to keep winning until they play Bama if he keeps playing like that. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, I think LSU has the best offense in the country. And people say, oh, what about USC? USC's a lead offensively too. But I'll take LSU's offensive line over USC's offensive line. There is not one offense I would rather play less than LSU right now. Now, the biggest question for LSU, Jaden Daniels, you got to slide, brother. You run way too vertical not to be sliding or getting out of bounds. I watched a highlight tape of the hits that he's taken this year, and Jaden Daniels isn't exactly made out of bricks. Like, he isn't Tebow's size. We interviewed him. He gained 15 pounds, and we interviewed him at SEC Media Days, and he still look thin. So he's got to protect himself because with him operating that offense with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., who may be the biggest freak on that offense when it comes down to it. Mason Taylor's back healthy. You've got a legitimate offensive line. The run game is really getting going. Jaden Daniels can extend the play from inside the pocket, outside the pocket. He's one of the best improvisers since Ryan Stiles from Whose Line Is It Anyway? I would rather play every other offense in the country than line up defensively against what LSU's doing right now. And Mike Denbrock, it's a full menu. Must be fun. That must be a whole hell of a lot of fun to call plays
in his bag, man. He is in his bag for sure. I mean, he's able to call anything right now and get it going. And the thing that stinks about this is LSU has been very good offensively, but the one thing I'm worried about for Auburn is they've been really, really good defensively. Like, people don't give them enough credit, but they're so they're injured right now. Austin Key's still out. Keontae Scott's still out. You got Jalen Simpson, who knows if he's going to play or not there in the back end of that defense. I mean, I just think that's a little unfortunate for Auburn right now with all the injuries they have.
Especially coming off the bye week, and you're in a depth situation with Hugh Freeze in year one. It's not his fault. Where you don't need, everybody needs to catch breaks, right? Injury wise, Auburn has to catch breaks and stay healthy. And listen, the biggest problem I think Auburn's going to have defensively in this game is they can't get a pass rush with 4. And against this offensive line, you can't get a pass rush against Jaden Daniels. He's going to eat you alive. To get pressure, Auburn has to bring pressure. And when you do that, you have to rob Peter to pay Paul. Now, do you zone pressure him, right? Do you keep everything in front and know that they're going to get big chunks and just hope that when you get in the red zone that you're able to hold them to field goals? I mean, that's what Hugh Freeze basically said in his press conference. I mean, if any of you guys know, like Brent Venables talking about Texas, if any of you guys know how to stop them, please let us know, because we're just going to try and keep them, to field goals in the red zone. And you try and limit possessions offensively for their offense by running the ball. I think that's all going to be baked in.
Oh, yeah. Do you think Eugene Asante is fast enough to be a spy on Jaden Daniels?
And I don't know how many guys are fast enough to actually legitimately be a spy on Jaden that don't play corner. Yeah. That's asking a lot. Jaden Daniels is absolutely skating out there.
I just know that Asante's a freak, so I didn't know if he was.
No, Asante's a freak. He's a hell of a player. But Jaden Daniels is literally just absolutely putting the roller skates on. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. The last game we got here, and then a take I wanted to ask you on. This has climbed up to, since I made this graphic, it's 20 and a half, depending on where you're looking for your sports book. But Arkansas going to Alabama. And my question here is really, we'll get to Sam Pittman in Arkansas in just a minute, because I know you posted about that earlier this week on Twitter, and I want to get your opinion on that. But Jalen Milroe throwing for 300 on the road, College Station. We talked about the Texas A&M defense and the secondary, how bad it was. But my question to you is, was that performance, was that Jalen Milroe turning the corner as a passer, or was that some fool's gold provided by the Aggies DBs?
Well, look, I think two things can be true at once. I mean, I think Jalen Milroe had a really good day. I think A&M's defense made it a lot easier on him because the first read was open. You had guys that were running wide open. I mean, there was even some throws I know that Jalen wants back when you go look at it, guys that were open. So I think it is a combination of those things. But my question in this game, how's Arkansas going to score? How are you going to score? Like it's you talk about one trick pony. I mean, it's KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, and Rocket's been beat up, but I don't see a way against this Alabama defense that Arkansas scores. I mean, I took Alabama minus 19.5 the minute I saw it. I locked it in because I think Bama can score 30 against this Arkansas defense, right? That through the game as the game progresses. But outside of getting just great field position and getting turnovers or big special teams play, I just don't see how Arkansas scores enough points with the way they're playing right now. I just don't, Blayne.
Yeah, and I think part of that Alabama success on offense, I do think that Travis Williams, the new defensive coordinator for Arkansas, has done a heck of a job.
Man.
They were 123rd in total defense last year. They're up to 46 in the country this year. That's a huge jump for them. So I think he's done a lot, bringing that four-man front, bringing more pressure, things like that, playing more aggressive in the secondary. So I do think they'll slow down Alabama some early, but eventually, Jake, like you said, if your offense can't extend drives, your defense is just going to be out there for 70, 75 plays, and you're going to get worn down after a while.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And look, T-Will he's an up-and-coming star. There's some young DCs in this league that are really going to turn out to be great head coaches. I think you look at Austin Armstrong. I can go down the litany of guys right now. I mean, obviously Kevin Steele's 300 years old at Alabama, so I'm not going to consider him a young DC. But I think there's Glenn Schumann at Georgia. Yeah. I think is going to end up being a great defensive coordinator. Matt House right now, I wouldn't throw him in that category if we're going to be honest. But no, I think T-Will's done a great job. But eventually that dam gets broken, man. That dam gets broken, and it's just it's tough. It's tough.
Is the dam broken on believing in Sam Pittman as the guy going forward? I know you had a post about this earlier this week. I mean, people are the seat's starting to get a little hot over there, and And I don't know the whole buyout situation. I've heard that if his record is below 500 this year, his buyout goes down to 10 million. 10 million's a lot to me and you, but to some of these people with that Walmart money out there at Arkansas, that's not a whole lot of cash to get rid of a head coach.
Yeah, they ain't broke out there. Here's what I'll say. Unless it's just an absolute disaster, which it could be. I mean, you're going to lose at Bama, and then that's 5 straight losses, and the SEC has a way of getting heavier and heavier as the year goes on. If it's a disaster, I think they may make a move. But if it's somewhere around 6-6, or they get to 7-5, even 5-7, I think next year is either you know what, or get off the pot. And you hate to see that, because Sam Pittman's one of the best guys in the business. We've interviewed him multiple times on Crain and Company. Unbelievably genuine. And it's weird that it hasn't worked there with his personality and Arkansas's personality. And it hasn't worked in the way that you would think would be the last way that it didn't work. You would think Arkansas would have this great run game, but they just couldn't throw it. Maybe defensively they weren't good enough. No, it's a lot of it's been the offensive line. I mean, that's been a huge problem. And when you have Sam Pittman, who is a guy that is renowned in this sport for his offensive line prowess, how is that a problem? We talk about Shane Beamer and them struggling in year 3 up front. Well, Arkansas is in year 4. And I think, I tell you what, man, I think it goes back and it really shows you that regardless of how good a fit may be off the field, it's like that marriage where, your buddy in high school, when you're a sophomore, you go over his house, his parents get together, they get along so well. They like the same things. They both hate scary movies and love salmon. But then all of a sudden, your senior year, you go over there and they're getting a divorce. And all of a sudden, his dad's been running around with the French teacher. It's just weird to see.
Yeah, it is weird to see. I hope Sam Pittman, just like you said, a good guy. I hope they get it turned around in terms of. And the thing is, of these 4 losses, Jake, I mean, 3 of them have been by 1 score. They've been competitive. They even with the terrible offensive line.
It is, but eventually you know, especially with all the hype they had after beating Texas. Remember early in his tenure, and everybody was just, Arkansas, it's for real, it's for real. It's just been such a letdown. And look, at this point, a loss is a loss, right? You're in year 4. There are no more moral. Man, we tried really hard, guys. It's just not going to work anymore.
Or you start getting in Scott Frost territory.
Or we're really close. We're so close. It's like, dog, you've been close for 3 years. No doubt. But you got to reach out and be able to touch it.
No doubt. Just a quick take on this one. What's your thoughts on Missouri, Kentucky?
Could sneakily be the best game of the weekend. You have 2 teams. I'm not betting this game because you have 2 teams that are pissed off for different reasons. Missouri's let down because, they really had a chance against LSU. Kind of let that one slip away. I mean, anybody that is trashing Brady Cook right now, I don't know what game you were watching. But he kept them in there. I know he had that turnover late, but just a tough situation. And then when you look at Kentucky, I mean, they just got absolutely embarrassed. I think them going back home, they're a different team at home. I think they'll be able to run the ball with success against Missouri. The question becomes, can Kentucky find a way to slow down Luther Burden and Schrader with Brady Cook there? I think it's going to be tight. I think Kentucky finds a way because they're embarrassed and Missouri's let down.
Yeah, Jalen Geiger out in that secondary for Kentucky, but also on the other side, Enos Rankstraw is out of this game for Missouri. Another injury you may want to watch out for. Cody Schrader, he's got a pulled quad. He had that going into the LSU game. We'll see if he plays. He may or may not play.
Well, if he didn't pull it when he ran for all 900 yards in that game, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. He hit it, I think 114. He was doing great in that game. Jake, as always, we appreciate you coming on, man. Tell everybody what you got going on at Crain and Company this weekend. Who's your guest picker? All that good stuff.
Yeah, man, we we go live each weekday morning, 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. If you can't catch it, it stays on YouTube forever. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's Crain and Company, CRAINN Company. We got Josh Mancuso, who's been blowing up doing these skits all over. He's been on CBS. The guy who makes fun of the mascots. So we're excited to have him on, man. It's a lot of fun. If you enjoy talking ball, we all played or coached at the highest level in college football. So we get down to the nitty gritty. But we tell stories about mozzarella sticks Stacy. That's hard to say, especially when I can barely breathe out of my nose as well. So it's a good time. Live calls, live chat. Come hang out with us.
You think I could send some film of my 7U team that I'm coaching to David Conan? He would do that breakdown thing on.
Dude, you should. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. He'd come up with some intricate play call name for it when it's really just like blue. That's what I never
Absolutely.
understood about offensive guy. Why y'all got to tell everybody what to do in the play? Like offensively, they're like, all right, here's what we got. We got 32 razor left, Z stick, 25 straw, 11 tango Rodney. It's like, all right, you just told every position group what to. On defense, we're like, hey, let's go over 43 yellow. There we go. There it is. Adjusted trips so they come out in it. So
Absolutely.
it's funny how they do that.
No, it's awesome. But listen, Crain and Company is awesome as well. So check it out. You can see the Twitter handles for both Jake and also for his show up there. You can see ours in the bottom right-hand corner if you are watching on YouTube. If you are on audio, it's at Crain Company, at Jake Crain _. And then for us here at Southeastern 14, it's at 14 Southeastern. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. Remember, if you want to partner with us, hit up caroline.smith at southeastern14.com. Check out your CHOMPS promo there in the description, and we will be back with Jake next Friday to talk about what happened in these games, talk about the games coming up. And thank you so much for tuning in. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We'll catch you guys next time right here on Southeastern 14.